Hello guys, I hope you are staying safe. My name is Wale Faron. I'm a tech entrepreneur and you are watching Tech Roundup, your weekly opinion, views and analysis of the top tech events happening around the world with a focus on Nigeria. On Tech Roundup today, we'll continue our Tech Roundtable series. Last week we discussed e-commerce and that panel was led by the CEO of Konga, and it discussed so many operational issues, including what they are doing as a business to address the impact of COVID-19. Today, we'll shift gears a little. We'll be talking about micro-lending, a fintech space that is rapidly growing in Nigeria. And that discussion will be led by Adia Sohwo, who is the Vice President of Growth for Migo, formerly called Minds. She talks about their recent Series B raise, their expansion to Brazil, and collaboration and otherwise with banks in Nigeria. I thoroughly enjoyed my interaction with Adia and other panelists in this one, and I hope you enjoyed the episode too. So Adia, last year, I read a comment that your CEO made. I think it was at a KPMG Fintech Roundtable, something similar to what we're doing, where he had mentioned that you guys had issued loans up to 36 billion naira with 1 million applications. When I did the math, it seems like it came down to about 36,000 naira per application on the average. And that got me thinking, you guys, what I understand is you guys do micro credits, right? Does 36,000 or thereabout form what you guys are defining as microcredit, and how you guys profiling people who will qualify for that sum, that kind of amount they want?
Okay, so we have reached to a very wide spectrum of customers. So your first loan at Migo could be as low as 500 naira or as high as 25,000 naira. Right. So, and wherever you start from, the starting point of your trajectory, is really just a starting point. Where you go from there, as a borrower, is just based on your behavior, right? And based on, how many loans and over how much time you've been taking those loans. So that the average implies 36,000 does not necessarily reflect the experience of most people, because like I said, the starting points are so wide. And of course, the expectation here is that if all of us dial the code, I don't expect that we are all going to have an equal digital footprint or an equal loan amount to reflect what you can get from Migo. So yeah, that is a rough average, but it's not, people start from much smaller borrowing amounts, just thus allowing us to reach really deep into, the lower end of the pyramid.
And people are then able to sort of increase what they could have access to depending on the profile that they're able to build. So you guys are now Series B last year, where you raised some couple of $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And part of that announcement was that you were expanding to Brazil, right? And I think part of that announcement, Adia, you mentioned that in expanding, there must be respect for local nuances of those. Mm-hmm. I get that Nigeria, I know Nigeria, but I don't think you know Brazil. What's driving the expansion to Brazil, and how are you guys paying attention to the local nuances of market segments?
So what we did was we went to Brazil and tried to find a similar complement of partners, because again, we are a technology company that believes and is structured for partnership, right? So we went and found payment aggregators, telcos, banks, and retailers, right, to try to construct a similar ecosystem to what we have constructed here. And I think that the societies that we are also interested in launching in have certain things in common with Nigeria culturally. You know what I mean? It's not quite a meritocracy. Relationships still matter. Your presence still matters. You can't do everything very successfully from a distance, right? So again, embedding within the culture has been very helpful, for us. And people just treat you differently when they feel like they can relate to you. When you speak when you speak their language, And English is not as widely spoken as we think in Brazil. It's really not. So you really can't get too far if you don't speak the local language.
So in terms of, just to follow up on that, in terms of expansion for you guys, so I mean, one could think about it from a slightly different perspective. So you profiled it, population, number excluded out, the nuances of the market. Nigeria very similar to Brazil. If you look at it in another way, you could arrive at Ghana is very similar to Nigeria, right? Or so why Brazil over sub-Saharan African countries who would also have customers or population who are excluded from services?
So that's not to say that Ghana is not in our path, but in terms of size, right? I mean, we believe that we have a strength in terms of reach in ultra large markets, right? Which is a challenge for most people in our space. So it's kind of uncharted territory for many lenders, right? Because of the way we partner and the way we work with institutions that are already embedded in the local systems, right? That allows us to reach many more customers than a typical app-driven digital lender, right? So again, we are just able to better penetrate markets, even at that scale.
How are you guys defining who to partner with in different markets? You've mentioned banks in Nigeria. You've mentioned payment aggregators. I know banks and banking in Nigeria. I know they are sort of sometimes party to partner. They would rather do everything by themselves. How are you guys navigating that and making sure that you're getting a quality partner on your platform that can help push your solution to the marketplace?
Okay, so I'll start from something you've just recently said. Determining the quality of a partner is very difficult before you've done your first transaction, right? You can have an imagination about what you expect the partnership to deliver, but until the rubber meets the road, you really don't know what a partnership is going to deliver. That's where having well-designed technology that makes partnering easy, right, and something you can achieve systematically helpful. So then you can partner with everybody, and then when we get there, we see what happens, right? So you can't really predict who an ideal partner will be. We've had a few surprises, right? But then they've been very, very instructive. Now, what we tend to typically look for, again, because we're a platform, is any entity that has a pool of customers for whom credit will add value to that business. And that looks slightly different depending on who you're talking to, right? So for a bank, we can enable them, we can help them with risk modeling customers that they cannot risk model with their traditional protocols, right? With a telco that typically, again, has, the smallest telco has more customers than the biggest bank in Nigeria, right? So massive pool of customers there, right? Lending is a value-added service. It's just something else that you make available on the handset, right? For retailers, what does credit look like? It enables the customer go into the shop and actually buy everything they actually want to buy in that trip, rather than being limited by the cash in their wallet, right? For payment aggregators, that looks like transaction completion, right? I think nearly half the transactions in Nigeria cannot be completed because of insufficient funds. If you add something to that, you know what I mean, then at least you can improve transaction completion even by a little bit. Yeah. So for us, I think we kind of have the platform that can flexibly integrate into these different ecosystems, right? And it's now up to the ecosystem to do the final definition of what credit means in that particular ecosystem.
All right. Thank you so much, Adia. I think that's all we have time to take. I hope you enjoyed that panel discussion. We'll continue the series next week with digital payment and financial services panel, so stay tuned. In the meantime, for other tech-related stories and articles, please be sure to check TechRoundUpS2E16. Some of the headlines for this week include cashless payments in COVID-19 era, big data in the COVID era, and many more. Have a great weekend, guys, and see you all again next week. Good night.